The stable dependency principle. Uncle Bob, what's this? Hello, I'm Chris Athanas. I'm a KMP developer. Tech support said they're gonna come out tomorrow for that thing. I'm like, okay, let's get that thing closed up, boys. Today I'm going to be responding to the stable dependency principle, which I thought he called the single responsibility principle. So we got stable dependencies and single responsibilities. Okay, let's see what he has to say this time.
What is it that makes a component hard to change?
This is an old
Dependencies.
video.
The number of incoming dependencies to a component, the number of other components that depend upon it, make that component hard to change. This component is responsible to all of these.
Directly
If
linked,
it changes, all of those are impacted. We call this kind of a component an adult because it is responsible to all of those guys, and it has nobody it depends upon. It's responsible and it's independent. It is an adult.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard it. I don't think I've ever heard it called that ever. I don't even know what he would call it. He was pushing for this. This is when he was back there pushing for this adult responsibility, stable. Okay. A component with many dependents is responsible. Okay. Responsibility implies stability. Really? I don't. Not free to change. Okay, maybe the API. You're trying to lock down the API between these things. The communication protocol maybe between these things. But like what's going on underneath the hood, that's gonna change all the time. But the API should be eventually become stabilized, right? That's the dream, right? Irresponsibility implies instability. What the okay? He's overloading these terms, or he's redefining these terms here, and he means them something very specific. But when software developers talk about these things, responsibility means very context specific, and stability is also very context specific. Stability? Which stability? What part of the application are you talking about? Okay. Component that depends on many other components is dependent. Independence implies stability. Dependence implies stability. Okay. I don't know, man. This seems to be some more of his sales driven marketing text copy from a book to sell a course to get a consulting gig to train you to up train your developers with his new latest book offering training course.
Kind of component. This kind of component depends upon many others, but nobody depends upon it. It is irresponsible. No one depends upon it, and it is dependent because it depends upon many others. Irresponsible and dependent. It is a teenager.
I don't know about that. I've never heard it called.
We will have components of both kinds.
It's overlaying this humanistic, anthropomorphic construct, which I don't think is helpful. This metaphor is not helpful. Is the teenager angry and he can steal the car keys and drive off in the middle of the night? And is it an irresponsible teenager? Or like, are you mixing? So this is where he's mixing these metaphors too much. He's trying to be cheeky and funny, I think, but he's also like confusing the issue because when you start to call things humans, are you giving them agency? Do they have agencies like humans? It's like, okay, well, it starts to break down.
In our system.
It's a lazy metaphor, in my opinion.
Some of our components will be heavily dependent upon. They will be stable adults. And
not all adults are stable. Okay, what are you talking about? Not all adults are stable. Some teenagers are are more stable than other so-called adults. So, what are you talking? I mean, he has implying a lot of what is it? He's implying a lot of like characteristics that he considers universal, where they're not shared characteristics. So he's mixing a metaphor and he's using a metaphor that's not fully shared, and the meaning of the metaphor is not fully shared. So he's muddling. He's actually not making things clear. He's making things more confusing, and by putting a question mark on the slide, even is like, okay, well, what are you talking about, man?
Components will depend heavily on others. They will be unstable teenagers, variable, changing their minds all the time.
I've known lots of teenagers who didn't change their mind at all. They were doing one thing, and that was what they were doing. Okay. I don't know whether this guy is getting the stereotypes off like TV, or these stereotypes from tropes from movies. Uh these are very specious. Let's keep going.
We can actually measure this. We can put a number on it.
Oh, we can put it. Oh, so he can. He does know about studies. See, I thought maybe he didn't know about studies, but he can put. Look at that. He's got numbers on it. He knows how to do a study based on this information. All this great information, these great techniques they can use that to speed up and make things more deliver. So he should be able to produce a study showing that his methodology is a massive, more than statistical improvement, more than noise. So he should be able to, and should be able to reproduce it independently. So he does know how to do it. He just doesn't want to do it because, well, we know what it'll turn out to be. This is just random stuff. It doesn't really. It may or may or not apply to your position, to your particular thing that you're trying to make. So let's keep going.
We can say, okay, this component right here has 3 incoming dependencies.
Okay.
And it's got 1 outgoing dependency. The incoming dependencies we could call CA for afferent couplings.
God.
The outgoing dependencies we could call CE for or outgoing dependencies. And we can come up with this interesting number I.
Oh, it's
I is called instability. Instability is a metric that goes from 0 to 1.
Okay, so how do you know what that is? So how do you measure that? Okay, it's a number, right? But 0 to 1, is somebody guessing it? Is it derived from the code? Is it based on bugs? Is it a historical thing? Are we making estimates? Are we projecting in the future? What are you talking about, man? Like a lot of this stuff, he just gish scalps over it, which is another reason why he's just doing hypnotic induction for sales. People are like, wow, that's amazing. You have a metric for that. It's like, I got to find out the metric to because if I can figure out where my sticking points with some simple metric, then I can just focus it on those areas and then I get my application success, like you said, right, Uncle Bob?
If I is 0, what does it mean that CA and CE are?
Oh, my God.
CE is 0. The incoming dependencies are 0, or the outgoing dependencies are 0, and the incoming dependencies are not. Right? So there are many incoming dependencies, but no outgoing dependencies. That's the adult.
Are you serious? This is what people think is great. I love DevTools Made Simple. He makes my job easy with like just reviewing these little clips. And I've watched most of these videos at one point or another. I haven't watched this particular one, but this is really old. He's got the fan in and fan out. He's using all this dependency terminology, which was very, very hot for a while, like 2004 to 2009 or something. Dependencies. Does he mean libraries? You mean APIs? You mean like a general word for category for that? Everyone's using it all differently.
If I is a 1, then CA is 0. There are no incoming dependencies, but there are outgoing dependencies. That is the teenager. So an I.
Oh my God. This teenager adult thing. What are you talking about? Man, what is this guy?
Of 1 is a teenager. It's unstable, unstable.
Unstable. I've known lots of teenagers who are very stable, way more stable than a damn adults. Holy crap, man.
An I of 0 is an adult. It is stable. And we can do this math for all of our components, and then we have a very simple rule. The stable depends.
Okay, how do you derive those numbers? Where do the numbers come from? Is this an estimate, sir? He just says, oh, there's a number, and we just calculate it. It's like, what are you talking about, man? I've never seen anyone ever use this. Let's keep going.
The principle says, depend on in the order of decreasing I. Every component that depends on another component should depend upon one that has a lower I metric than it does. Why?
I metric.
Imagine a component named EZ. I call it EZ because I want it to be easy to change. Do we create components that we would like to be easy to change? Of course we do. We want to put all of our language files in components that are easy to change. We want to put all of our configuration data into components that are easy to change.
Language translation files? You mean all the languages we use? What he's just so gish scalping. Let's keep going.
We want to take all of the code that is variable and put it in components that are easy to change. And that means they need to be in teenagers. Components that depend outwards but have no incoming dependencies. So we want...
All right, so he's talking about, I guess, the... what is it, clean, where you have the rings of like outside is the system level stuff that'll change, and there's a layer of like generalized API, and there's the core thing where your app was actually doing. The core never talks directly to the system. There's always going through some interface that will allow you to like swap it in and out the out depending on what changes. Is he talking about that kind of stuff, or is this still like might be still stewing in his brain when this video came out talking about this stuff? It's like, yeah, of course, that's how you do it. You want to have interfaces between your application and the stuff it's trying to work with in general. In the beginning, maybe your version 1.0 MVP, you talk directly to it. That's fine. But yeah, eventually you want to kind of swap that out because it gets a pain in the dick to have to retie everything together just to swap out one thing, swap out the database or swap out some messaging system. It gets to be a pain to have to rewire it directly. But, the first time through, maybe you should. And don't worry about the damn interface. Let's go getting product market fit. And after you get product market fit, then you can go in and make it all interfaced out where it's appropriate, where you don't, not the whole damn thing. I've worked on these applications that everything was interfaced out. It's like, dude, someone did some make work on this one because this was not well thought out. Like they're not having an interface on everything. Let's keep going.
To create components that are easy to change. But there's another component out here, H. H is hard to change. Why is it hard to change? Because it has many incoming dependencies. And now the author of H mentions my name. He hangs a dependency on me. And what has he done to me? If H is hard to change, and H mentions my name, and therefore depends upon me, what has he done to me? He's made me hard to change. It is the perversity of software that someone else can make you hard to change by mentioning your name.
It's not mentioning your name. It's seeing some functionality in your library or function or whatever that someone feels they can use in there with their thing. So let's get our terminology correct. Just by mentioning your name. No, that's not how this works. Let's keep going.
Right? All they have to do is hang a dependency on you, and they ruin your maintenance characteristics. So we've got this H.
Maintenance characteristics, meaning that now someone's depending on you, so you have to now have some sort of update. Well, there's why are they depending on you unless you made your thing public to be dependent upon. Okay, so there's some a little bit of goofiness going on here with how he's talking about these things. He's definitely coming from like the user side and not the publisher or library publisher side. And there's a lot of confusion. And this thing is defining the boundary layers of the API, which is what the library does and how in the internals of whatever it's doing, has always been a tragic. It's always been a clusterfuck and a half. Let's keep going.
Thing with an I metric of 0, depending on an EZ thing with an I metric of 1, that's the wrong direction. What we want to do instead is split out a new component. Whatever it is that H wanted to depend upon, we need to pull out an interface so that H can depend on an interface and EZ can implement the interface. They'll both depend on the interface.
Right.
Nobody will depend upon EZ and make EZ hard to change.
Okay, right.
That's using, again, the dependency inversion principle to keep these metrics.
Yes, put an interface in front of something that might have something change. Yes, that's a long way around to talk about just making interfaces. All right. I like Bob, but sometimes, man, he's too salesy. He's trying to like sell us courses or books or certifications or something. It just gets a little old. Give me a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you. So I'll put the link in the diddly-do down below.